Welcome back to the Maelstrom, ladies and gentlemen. We have another Warhammer 40k battle report for you today. 2,000 points of Nurgle Demons versus Thousand Suns. We're going to be playing resupply drop with hammer and anvil deployment. The Nurgle Demons will be on the left-hand side of the table. Thousand Suns will be on the right. So once we get to battle round 3, we're going to roll to cut all but 2 of these objectives off of the table. Those are going to be the ones that we spend the rest of the game fighting over as the resupply drop begins. So you have seen our table here. We will be right back with the armies. First up, we have Nurgle's contribution to the conflict. We have 4 squads of plague bearers. 2 of those are 29 strong, 1 is 30 strong. We have an instrument and an icon in each squad. We also have 4 groups of 3 Nurgling swarms. We then have a feculent gnarl maw, and gathered around it we have our 4 heralds. We have 2 poxbringers. One of those has corruption as his relic, and he has the shriveling pox. The other one has virulent blessing. He is joined by, or they are joined by a scrivener and a sloppity bile piper. We also have a great unclean one. He has fleshy abundance and miasma of pestilence for his powers. And then we have 6 plague drones. So we are organized into 2 battalions. So we will be starting off the game with 13 command points. We will be right back with the Thousand Suns.
Okay, so the Thousand Suns are organized into a battalion. The first HQ in the Warlord is an Exalted Sorcerer, and he will be wearing the Helm of the Third Eye. His powers will be Warp Time and Prescience. The second HQ is another Exalted Sorcerer. He will be carrying the Dark Matter Crystal. His powers are Infernal Gaze and Prescience. And the third HQ is Ahriman, riding on his Disc of Tzeentch, and his powers are Death Hex, Warp Time, and Diabolic Strength. Then in the troop slots, I have 2 squads of 9 rubrics. One squad has Weaver, one squad has Glamour, and they each have a Rhino to ride in. In the elites, I have a squad of 5 Scarab Occult with Hellfire Missile Rack, and their sorcerer has Temporal Manipulation. In the fasts, I have a squad of 5 Spawn. And then in the heavies, I have a pair of Forge Fiends. And then filling out the last of the points and the majority of the troops for this army, I have 2 squads of 15 Zangors with Brayhorns and a squad of 12 Zangors with a Brayhorn. Alright,
you have seen the armies and you have seen the table. We will be back as we get stuck into the Maelstrom. Alright, armies are down. Thousand Suns were done first. Josh is going to walk us down his initial deployment.
So we put our entire army into a refused flank as much as is possible on hammer and anvil deployment. All of the Zangors are up front, backed up by the 5-man Spawn squad there, and both of the Rubric squads and both of the Exalted Sorcerers are in the Rhinos. Ahriman took up position here in front of the 2 Forge Fiends who are standing on the hilltop, covering what is one potential home objective, and with clear fields of fire to the majority of the others across the table, and the Terminators are going to deep strike.
Alright, so the demons have the Great Unclean One, and the Plague Drones are going to be making a demonic assault. We have 1 squad of Plague Bearers on this side with the tree making up the center of the army. We have the 4 Heralds partying around it right now. Got 3 more squads of Plague Bearers pumped to that side. And then we have Nurglings here, 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 and here to block up deep strike in the backfield. Alright, so Thousand Suns are going to get +1 to the roll to go first because they did finish first. 5. Going to need a 6 from Nurgle to keep it alive. Nope, it's a 1. So I assume you're taking first turn, correct? Nope, alright. So Nurgle's going to have turn 1. We will be back once we are finished. Alright, Nurgle Shambling Horde started their advance this turn. The squad on this end went ahead and got a pretty good advance roll. They moved around the building here to create more of a buffer zone for the rest of the army. Nurglings all stayed put. They found toys to play with here in the deployment zone. We have our Herald still around the tree, have the Bile Piper here, the Scrivener here, and the 2 Poxbringers, 1 here And the other one right here, another kind of lost in the shambling sea there. The rest of the plague bears advanced conservatively to try to get into a position to launch some assaults early on here in the game. So that's it. We don't have any psychic powers in range, so we're going to hand it back over to our opponent. Thousand Suns, turn 1, coming up next.
So we are done with Thousand Suns turn 1. We kind of conservatively moved all the Zangors to the right, pushed the small squad up to block the front line for the incoming charges in the next turn. Moved the spawn and both squads of rubrics further to my right to extend the end of our line and try to create some support depth for when those charges come in. The Forge Fiends fired on the squad on his far right and knocked 4 members down, but during the morale phase he did get 1 back. He rolled 2 1s for his morale check. The Rhinos and... well, it was one of the Forge Fiends.
Yeah, one of the Forge Fiends and the 2 Rhinos down here.
Managed to knock 4 members of the other front squad down, and although they passed their morale check with a 2, they did not get any members back.
Yep. We're going to have to talk to the Bile Piper. He's got to make his song more entertaining. But we did get 1 back, so we got 7 down, an auspicious number for Nurgle. The sacrifice has been made. Hopefully the warp will tear open here, so we'll get some reinforcements in and get some damage going. We'll be back after Nurgle turn 2. Nurgle turn 2 is up to the assault phase. Everything continued its move forward. We did juggle the Nurglings a little bit to keep our backfield covered up. We then went ahead and made our advance moves forward with all of the plague bearers. This squad is going to be charging into these Zangors. This squad is going to be charging into the Zangors in the center, and this squad did a double charge against the Zangors in the center and the guys in the back. Great Unclean One came in from reserve, cast both of his powers successfully, but they were both stopped by Ahriman. He then made a charge against this Forge Fiend. The drones came in here, failed with their Death's Head. They tried to do some damage to the spawn because we had cast Shriveling Pox on them, but failed miserably, didn't even get close. And then we also failed with Smite here in the middle with this guy. So not a productive psychic phase, but we did make all of our charges. With the exception of the drones, they did not make it to the spawn. So we are going to go ahead and work those charges, and then we will be back. Nurgle has wrapped up close combat. We were able to kill the entire 12-man Zangor squad on this end for first blood, and those plague bears continued their advance. In the center, we were able to bring down several of them, and 2 or 3 more died to morale. You have what, 2, 3 left there? Right? 3. All right, so 12 of them total. And then on this flank, not too much damage, just a couple of them went down, and they did kill 2 plague bears in response. We did not get any plague bears back. We did lose a few more to morale here. Because we did use them to lock up Ahriman, and he crushed 4 of them with his close combat attacks. Down here, we were able to lock up both of the Forge Fiends. Crushing Bulk did not do anything. We did 5 wounds to him, only managed 2 wounds, and he did make one of the invulnerables. But we did do him 5 wounds with the one that got through, and did lock both of them up. They were unable to hit me thanks to the Plague Fly Hive. So that is going to be the end of Nurgle turn 2. Thousand Sun response, bottom of 2, coming up next.
Okay, so we are up to assault phase for the Thousand Suns. We got both squads out of their Rhinos, moved their Rhinos around to do some blocking charges to try to hold some stuff up while we dealt with stuff in front of us. Psychic phase, through all of our psychic and our shooting, a combination of some smites and stuff, we managed to get
7 altogether. You got 3 more on this side.
7 out of the red squad on our far right flank. 1 or 2 out of the squad in the middle. Ahriman cast Diabolic Strength on himself afterwards so that we could continue to try to knock these guys down in close combat. Then that squad on the far edge and the sorcerer, the HQ sorcerer that's riding with him, the warlord, charged the red pocked squad along with the spawn. The squad in the middle and the sorcerer that rides with them charged the squad that left 3 Zangor survivors here in the middle. The Rhino in the back charged the plague drones, and the Rhino in the middle charged the Great Unclean One in the hopes that we survive for 1 round and tie him up while we deal with some other targets.
Alright, so that's it up to the assault phase. We'll be back once that's finished.
Okay, so close combat has come to an end. The spawn took a faded mutation and combined with the prescience and the death hex that were on the squad and the attacks from the warlord and the rubric squad behind them, we knocked that squad down to like 6 survivors. They took like 22 or 23 casualties. When they rolled their morale, they decided they would roll the dice and take a chance. He rolled a 2 and a 4, so the squad was wiped out on morale. We did, however, lose a spawn to their attacks in the close combat phase. The next squad over wiped 2 of the 3 Zangors down and took a handful of casualties, I think 6
something like that, yeah.
The squad on the far edge that was locked with the big squad of Zangors wiped the Zangors out, consolidated into the Forge Fiend. Armin consolidated into them, but because he was locked out of combat before he got to swing, he didn't get to kill anything this time. But the Forge Fiend did squash 1 of the Plague Bears there, even though they were under a warp surge.
Yep.
The Great Unclean One finally turned it on. Figures, just my luck. He's been failing for the last 4 or 5 games in close combat, and he finally decides, oh, that's what my sword's for. And 5 wounds, 5 get through the armor save, 14 damage points to the Rhino, and splat. It was worth the gamble. The Forge Fiend got locked up with the Plague Drones, but was unfortunately unable to do anything. The Rhino put 1 wound on them, but they made their invulnerable save. However, the only damage out of that combat was 2 wounds out of the Forge Fiend.
Yep. Alright, so I think that's it, right, for the turn. We did get 4 Plague Bears back here with a 1 on a morale. Thank you, Court Jester Bile Piper. But still a lot of game to play, so we're going into the top of 3. At this point, the person who went first picks 3 objectives and randomizes to see which remains. So this objective is going to be 1 or a 2. The objective back here by the Forge Fiends is going to be a 3 or a 4. And the objective here at the base of the tower is going to be a 5 or 6. We have a 1 or a 2. So this objective remains. The other 2 are pulled from play. So that's the first supply drop down. We will be back as Nurgle goes into turn 3. Nurgle has finished their turn up to the assault phase. We went ahead and moved the Poxwalkers forward with an advance and charged the Spawn and the Warlord here, but not the Thousand Suns. Didn't want to eat the Overwatch and take the potential for some casualties there. The Great Unclean One moved up, cast both of his powers. They were both canceled by Ahriman. He was aggravated by that apparently, so then he smashed 2 of the Rubric Marines with his flail. He's charging them now. The Poxwalker or Poxbringer here cast Shriveling Pox onto the Spawn, and this squad took Virulent Blessing from the other one. He did attempt to cancel both of those, but both of those were able to go off. So showing up the Great Unclean One, they did get something off. Gonna do these combats, and then we will be back. Combat rolls to an end. The Plague Bears here were able to kill 2 of the Spawn, and because they were under Virulent Blessing and all that good jazz, they left the Warlord at 1 wound remaining. They also locked the Marines up. All of the attacks managed to bring 1 of them down. Down here, Crushing Bulk from the Great Unclean One killed 1 of the Thousand Suns, and then he smashed all but the Sorcerer with his Bile Sword. From that point, the Sorcerer was unable to hurt him back and failed his morale test and fled the field. The Exalted Sorcerer that's in there as well was unable to do anything with his staff, and on this end, he was able to bring down 3 Plague Bears between Ahriman and the Forge Fiend. 1 of those came back on their morale check after rolling a 1. Oh yeah, and Ahriman, I forgot about that too. Ahriman took 2 6s. And since we were within 6 inches of him for the Demonic Locust, we did do him 4 of his wounds. So Ahriman is also bled down to nothing. We are going to roll for objectives now. So on a 1 or a 2, it'll be this objective. 3 or a 4, it'll be this one. 5 or a 6, it'll be down here. Alright, on a 4, it'll fall to the middle. So the one that these Nurglings are sitting on is the second supply drop. Alright, so Thousand Suns, turn 3, coming up next.
Alright, so we went ahead and wrapped the entire Thousand Suns turn up off camera, since we were pretty well tied up in combat with everything and working on the dregs anyway. The flies came up big and destroyed the Rhino. Both of the Forge Fiends fell back from combat in the off chance that maybe we would get to shoot in a coming turn if things went well and things stayed tied up, but no dice there. The Exalted Sorcerer that was tied up here got heroically intervened on by the Great Unclean One, but the Great Unclean One was only managed to get 1 wound through 1 total. He wounded him 4 times. He made 3 of his invulnerable saves, and he rolled a 1 on the wound roll twice.
Yep. That guy was not going anywhere.
The squad knocked 3 more wounds out of him, leaving him sitting at 1 wound, but he is still there for the moment. The yellow squad down here managed to take Warlord and finish the spawn, and took 1 casualty in return. And the squad that was locked down here on Arben finished him off.
Yep. So at that point, the Thousand Sons are going to go ahead and tap out, with the objectives being where they are. The fly is free to tie everything up. The last of the sorcerers about to go down to the Great Unclean One. He was hoping to find a pocket somewhere to drop. Really was hoping it would be this objective, I'm sure, so that he could drop his Terminators in the pocket over here. But the demons have kept in a spot where he's just not got anywhere to drop. Everything is too close for him to do the 9-inch drop. Because of the triangle of demons there. So he can't really get to the objective, can't really score a line breaker. Going to struggle to get me off of this objective, even with the Terminators for support. So at that point, we're going to go ahead and call it. It is Nurgle victory at that point. We'll have after action reviews and army lists at the blog as always. Be sure to give us a like on Facebook. Subscription on YouTube is the most important metric. We would love it if you would do that, and we appreciate everything that you guys have already done for us. As always, guys, thanks for spending time with us today at the Maelstrom.